Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 108 for Tuesday, July 29th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the host of this show, and today I'm joined by...
Bird the One. I'm the special guest coordinator and this week the editor of stuff.
I'm Flutterguy317. I'm the media manager for the podcast.
Sorry to keep you awake, Burn. I'm Atmospheric. I do the questions, the DeviantArt, and usually the Gmail. I just had somebody ask me about that, so that's me.
Yay. See, I would be... Normally I'd be annoyed at Burned for yawning, but I hear that yawning is a symptom of not getting enough oxygen, and I am currently strangling him right now, so I mean, maybe that might have something to do with it.
It's the fact that he talks just so much, there's more air going out than coming in.
Creative. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
True. Maybe I'm just digging for a new intro, man. Instead of breathing in deeply, I'm yawning.
Is that really your digging for creative?
You want to try that again?
Inspiration,
creative outlets. You know.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so far past me.
And I've only been up for 26 hours. Give me a break. Can
we expect like a compilation then of Burns yawns made by fans or something like that?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
So, yeah, welcome back, guys, to the show. We've got something really special today, but we want to just go over a couple things really quick. First of all, welcome back, Mr. Flutterguy, who was away last week.
Yay.
Hi, Ted.
Hi.
How was your weekend?
It was good.
Awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
Did you lake it up?
Did you lake it up?
Like it's in the water.
Oh, I oceaned it up, yeah.
Is lake a verb?
Yeah, it is now.
No.
Has this changed?
Everything's a verb.
You've never oceaned it super hard?
Okay.
Dude, I ocean all the time. All right, this conversation's going nowhere.
Yeah. So, speaking of places that did go somewhere, we are going to BronyCon next week.
No, we're not.
Or, I guess,
already...
Wait, what's the timeline here? Next week, as in, this comes
2 days
out on
from
a
now.
Tuesday, and then, anyways.
In 2 days, we'll be there.
Yes, in 2 days from when this airs, we will be at BronyCon.
No, we won't.
Okay, well.
You'll be there spiritually or something.
Yes.
We'll bring a Ouija
will be
board.
with us in spirit. Also, we're still trying to do that CAC meetup thing, and we have a few people who've emailed us about it, so if you're interested in that, feel free to email us about that, and follow our Twitter, because that's where we're going to be talking about it. So
yes. At Cutie Art Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. Do it now.
Yeah. And finally, I just wanted to give another shout out to our YouTube page, which we've just started really ramping up. Last week we had a huge ramp up where we released like a ton of videos. We released episode 100 up to 107 in the span of a couple days there. In order to get our channel kind of caught up, at least we have a nice marker now. So all episodes from 100 on are on our YouTube page, including this one. Hopefully you'll be tuning in on there or either that on the live stream. But yeah, I think that's everything. I don't want to stay around too long because we are keeping someone waiting who we're very excited to talk to.
Yeah, this week is an exciting week. We have an artist I'm really big fan of, and it is awesome that he could join us today. So today on the show, we have TsaoShin, or Eric, as we can call him. So thank you for joining us, TsaoShin. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my goodness.
What happened to the microphone?
Your mic just...
I have no idea what just happened there.
We're having technical difficulties at the moment. It appears that your mic is under attack by robots.
No, yeah, it's really
is that
bad.
like, is it a connection thing? Who's hosting the call? I'm hosting the call?
No, it was fine. It was fine just a second ago.
Can you guys hear me now?
There we go.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Good lord.
Okay, so after some technical difficulties, hi there, TsaoShin. It's nice to have you on the podcast.
So as long as everything's still going and we're good, I guess we'll continue.
Yeah.
So hi, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So do you prefer TsaoShin or Eric? Are you more of a formal guy or?
Oh, really? Any's fine. But if you wanted to, for the sake of ease, just go by Eric.
Sure. Sounds good. Okay, so I mean, we try to do this for all of our guests when we first start out. We ask them just to kind of give like a brief rundown of who they are, what they do, just in case people haven't seen your work or they don't really know who you are personally. Can you just give us a little rundown of who you are and what you do?
How would you define yourself, if you will?
Well, I'd like to think of myself as a a fun fan artist. A lot of my art is usually just things that I draw that I'm really enjoying, gaming or, movies or television. I also do a lot of fantasy because I love fantasy so much. But yeah, just kind of a fun artist, I guess.
Cool. So let's jump right into that with your kind of subject material of your art, and like you said, there's a lot of like fan art there, and that seems to be like a huge motivation for you. So I mean, why is that? Is that something that just speaks to you? Do you use it as motivation?
Well, I think that it kind of got started when I was younger. What really took me into art was when I was playing a lot of video games. You remember the manuals that you get with like your old NES games, the illustrations, or what you saw on the screen was, sprites, and a lot of times it's not really clear what it is. Mm-hmm. When I was young, I'd always like flesh that out, what I really thought that, 2x3 pixel thing was. So I'd like to reimagine, things that have already come from one universe and just kind of expand on that.
Huh. That's kind of interesting. So you kind of add depth and details to things that are maybe not so detailed. Not literally maybe, but just like, I don't know. I can kind of see that in a lot of your work, like especially with the lighting and the shading and kind of where you take the basically like show style kind of stuff and kind of expand on that.
Right.
Yeah, and you seem to do a lot of crossover work as well.
Yeah, that's. I just like to bring things together. You like one part of something and you kind of bring it in this kind of fun way. Mm. I'm doing a lot more crossover stuff now since the Grumpy Cat Disney stuff, and everybody kind of pushing me in that direction.
Yeah, that really took off, didn't it?
Right?
Yeah,
that was great.
So in case people aren't aware, TsaoShin has been doing this series of, I guess it's all Disney movies with Grumpy Cat inserted. Do you want to kind of talk about your inspiration for that, or if there was any?
Yeah, it's unusual that way that started. The very first one actually was the Little Mermaid one.
Which is fantastic.
I had picked up a new tablet, and whenever I get a new tablet, I have to kind of relearn, when it's a different size. But basically, I wanted to do something with lots of textures, so I just thinking in my head, the scene where she's up on that rock. It's got water, it's got rocks, it's got the clouds. But I actually really, really hate drawing people. So when I got to the part where I was finishing off, I've already drawn the tail because it had lots of scales on it. I couldn't do it. I just put Grumpy Cat in there anyway. And I shot a screenshot off to it to a couple of my friends and just laughed about it because I was about to ditch the whole thing because I didn't take it seriously, and they all thought it was really funny. So I said, no, you have to finish that. That's hilarious. And I did, and I didn't think anybody would actually care for it.
And now you're famous for it.
Yeah.
So ever since that one, actually, people have been like suggesting what they want to see in the next ones or which movies that I should ruin next.
Yeah, it's really funny what kind of takes off and what doesn't, right?
Yeah, I would have never guessed that would be popular.
I'm not sure whether my favorite one is the Pinocchio one or the Frozen one.
Yeah, the Frozen one is fantastic.
The Pinocchio one's a little darker than the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are a lot of these I guess fandoms that you are portraying here, is that the kind of stuff that you participate in, or is it from an outside perspective from some? I know you got things like Pokemon, How to Train Your Dragon, obviously the Disney movies, obviously some pony stuff in there. Are those all things that you actively participate in?
Yeah, I don't like to do fan stuff of things that I'm not very familiar with. I like to really get in that universe before I feel comfortable with doing something, drawing something from there, because I want to be sure that I'm capturing that character the right way. And a lot of people have tons and tons of fandoms, and they ask, well, why don't you draw something from this or this? But, I just haven't had the time to sit down and either watch it or play that game. But yeah, everything you see in my gallery is something that I'm really into.
That's really
That's
awesome.
cool.
I really enjoyed seeing all the How to Train Your Dragon fan art as it started coming out. That was really great.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I have so many of your pieces in my wallpapers gallery.
I'm a really
So
big
many.
fan of the of Hiccup's treasure map, the winter scene.
Oh, yeah.
When you're creating these kind of pieces, these fan art pieces, how do you I guess come up with the idea for them? Because it's kind of interesting scenarios and situations. And obviously, like, you have the crossovers, Grumpy Cat and whatnot, but these How to Train Your Dragon pieces, like that one, and there's also Stoic the Vast, just kind of seem like really happy pieces. So
Right.
how do you kind of decide what you're gonna start arting?
I generally, anything, they all kind of change from piece to piece. The treasure map one, I really wanted to do a piece where they were in the snow, because, I mean, Hiccup does say that there are areas snowy almost all the time, but in the movie it was never like that. And I thought that it would be great to see Toothless, who's, almost all black, in actually a really bright setting. And I really wanted to actually see the contrast, so that's how that one was made. The other one, the Stoic the Vast drawing, was right after I watched the movie. It was like Father's Day, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I want to ruin anything if people haven't seen the movie, but I was like, oh, I got to draw a happy picture now.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because your pieces specifically are the ones that constantly remind me how horrible I am for not seeing the second movie yet.
I haven't seen it either. I really need to.
Awful.
I really need to, and every single time, because it was especially during that period, that we went from, what was it? You had like a Stitch and Toothless a couple times, and then you had that Stoic the Vast one, and it was just like, it was almost like every single week there was something new. It was like, oh, I really should go watch that movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of, sorry, here you go ahead.
Well, it's just that How to Train Your Dragon is probably like my favorite fandom. So I have people, my friends always tell me to, no more How to Train Your Dragon stuff. Do something else. Like, you're kind of flooding your gallery with all of them. Like,
Tell me what to do.
No,
I'm going to draw dragons. You're not going to stop me.
Ignore them. Listen to everybody else.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, on that topic, how did you come up with that? The Stitch and Toothless crossovers, because they're all adorable.
Oh, thanks. I actually love Chris Sanders, and Chris Sanders actually was the guy behind Lilo and Stitch, and Toothless when he joined DreamWorks. Him and Dean DeBloy.
Huh.
And I've followed his artwork forever, ever since he worked with Disney, and he was doing Lion King. He's an amazing artist, and the characters he comes up with, they're so full of life, and Stitch and Toothless have so many similar features that I don't know. When I was sitting down, I was like, I'd love to see them in a drawing together, dressed as each other, to just kind of solidify that link that they both have with Chris Sanders.
Now that you mentioned that, like, I never realized that before, but I mean, you're totally right. I totally make that connection now, because like I definitely know for his work in Lilo and Stitch, and that's kind of when I went out and like saw some of his other work. But I did not know that he was responsible for like Toothless. But the same kind of expressions come to mind.
Yeah, I never picked up on that either.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the piece, the Stitch and Toothless piece was the piece where I kind of made that connection. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that others might have made the similar connection, but you can definitely tell there's certain aspects from that movies where they're almost, the same character. They've got a lot of the same tendencies, and they're obviously both very well loved.
Then it's just the characters themselves have such expressive faces, because you have to in that kind of scenario, because neither of the characters really talk that much. They're kind of mute characters. So all these the speaking that they end up doing is all in the facial expressions. Like there's this really cute GIF of I forget the boy's name from How to Train Your Dragon. Hiccup when he's tying the that contraption to the end of Toothless's tail when he's stuck in that pit, when he's like tying it there, and it goes through this like roller coaster of emotions of what Hiccup's doing.
Yeah. So why don't we, we're 15 minutes in here, but let's back it up here for a second, and let's talk about how you got started. Were you an artist from a young age, or did you pick it up as something that you kind of grew into?
I actually, my parents never really wanted me to be an artist. It was something they actually tried to squash. They didn't really fight with me on the art stuff too much until I was off to college, and then they absolutely wanted me to pick up a job that they thought would have more fruitfulness after school. So, it wasn't actually until I was in college that I flipped my major. I was actually there for occupational therapy. Halfway through, I was like, no, it's got to be art. I can't do this. I've got to do art. And I had to stay an extra year because I, just kind of pushed away a whole 2 years. But actually went right into the art program. I became a painter. So right there is I actually just kind of picked up traditional painting. We didn't have a digital program. We didn't have graphic design. It was just all traditional art. So the closest thing that made me feel comfortable for what I wanted to do was traditional painting. And then after I got out of school, I couldn't afford paint. The paint was actually so expensive, and you're really only making one copy. It's really hard to make your costs back. And around the same time, I picked up a tablet, and I just started going away with, digital painting, found it was, I could do a lot more with a lot less, and it was, it didn't take too long to get really comfortable with that.
Plus, there's always the wonderful world of the internet.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the digital painters at the time were so big, they were, a lot of these people that I really looked up to, like Craig Mullins. It was a long road for me. I didn't know how to use Photoshop. I didn't really know what program to use for a really long time. But, once I finally did get established in Photoshop, the more you use it, the better you get, and kind of tweak it to what you need it to be.
Yeah, it's got to be kind of interesting coming from a traditional painting background into like digital without having really touched any digital painting program before. Had you had any experience with digital painting?
No, none at all.
No.
I mean, I had used like Microsoft Paint, but but with a mouse, and it was very difficult. But yeah, I mean, it's hard because Photoshop's not really built to paint, and it's not really. You wouldn't think that it's for that, but it can do it. So when I first started using Photoshop, it was when I was interning for a company, and I was there for graphic design. I was just using it to change file types and make buttons, but I quickly found that, making your own brushes, kind of pushing it a little bit, it starts to become very, very powerful really quickly.
Yeah, I think, isn't Photoshop really, like, out of the box more of a photo manipulation program, and then you can kind of tweak it into artsy stuff?
Especially the early versions, I don't think they really had a lot there for painters. It was really just for photo manipulation and for
That's exactly how it was. With early versions of Photoshops, it was like, this is our main goal, is like photo manipulation, like digital, like camera Photoshop manipulation. And then from there, they started to develop this extremely powerful tool, and like now it's industry standard, quote unquote,
Yeah.
I never trust industry standard ever since Flash became industry standard.
Yeah. Well.
So you talked a little bit about your formal training to do with traditional in college, traditional mediums in college. Is there any other kind of formal training, or is it kind of just all learned on your own, either through experience, a job, or just personal practice?
Well, I work as a conceptual illustrator now for the U.S. Army, so kind of use the strength that I built up, learning digital painting where I work now. A lot of what we do is research, so I have to kind of paint these scenarios that don't exist yet, but they will 20 years from now. So it's a lot of, I'm basically drawing all day long. I'll draw that, during work, and then I come home and I work on my personal stuff. But really, the digital painting stuff I picked up on my own, and usually just from watching other people draw live, or their YouTube videos, or just hours and hours of looking at art on DeviantArt, just trying to pick up these methods and just constantly improve.
Yeah.
That is an interesting career.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I wish I could talk a little bit more about it. It's all classified.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what ends up happening with those, isn't it?
Hopefully you can answer this then. Is it like, is there any color involved, or is it mostly just black and white sketches that you do as a career?
Oh no, it's painting realistic landscapes and scenarios, just like how you would see my paintings, except imagine a military theme.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is because a big part of your paintings is the color. Like I have in front of me Look at the Stars, which is a painting of Mufasa from The Lion King. and just the colors in this are
Warm and cool.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Or as we call it on the show all the time, blorange. Although it's a bit more orange and purple though, so we'll have to come up with a new word for that.
Orange.
Porange.
Orange.
I would argue that it's actually orange, red, and then violet blue. But maybe
See,
that's...
How are you going to combine those?
Shut up, Burn. That's the gist of that conversation. No, but seriously, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of great color in your pieces, such as that one where we have that split. And I know that silver sitting in the background at Joel's house would kill me if I did not bring up something like the Eevee banana splits piece,
Oh yeah.
which in itself
yeah.
is just full of, the entire spectrum.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess you've noticed that I really like vibrant colors, high saturation, sometimes to a kind of a ridiculous degree. But that's really because I come from traditional painting. Your colors in a traditional painting setting, they're as vibrant as they're going to get when they come out of the tube. Anytime you start mixing, you're starting to tone them down. And, it's a lot of paint that you're using. And, painting straight from the tube is often, not encouraged.
I would frowned upon was the term that I would say.
Right.
My teacher would scold me. He's like, don't do that. One of those artists. It's like, I'm sorry.
Right. So, when I got to digital painting, I felt like, those chains are broken. There's a lot you can do there. What I like to do is mess around with color temperature a lot. That's why a lot of my drawings seem very vibrant, because I don't tone them down. I try to use color temperature rather than trying to, push down the hues or the values.
Yeah, we definitely noticed that a lot of the pieces that we could teach, especially like the Flutterbat one, we noticed it, and then the one that Flutter Guy just linked, the Look at the Stars with the Lion King one. But I guess my question is, how did you become such like a skilled colorist? Was it really just like the major basis of traditional and like painting through that, and like color just kind of like got ground, I don't know, into how you see art?
I think, I'm going to have to say that it has to do with traditional painting, because you spend so much time. Back then we had to paint our own color wheels, in our own swatches. So you become very, very sensitive to the very subtle changes that, one color, and, color is really, it's really relative what you see next to it in its neighboring color. It can be greatly affected by its environment. So when you're doing life painting, which is pretty much all we did, and using our own color wheels, you're very sensitive to how that color is going to be. So when I practice, I actually practice from life. I try not to look at photos for my inspiration, but rather I go outside in different light settings so I can see the way, for example, my light might bounce off the grass, and then pop back up on a white surface. What color is it going to take from the grass to that white surface? In the painting that you mentioned, Look at the Stars, that was actually a practice painting to try to see what I could do with Mufasa's face. Because he pretty much is one color, but I wanted to do more with the light bouncing off of, his mane, and then back onto his face to kind of put that redness back in his face, and then take that into a cooler setting, which is on the left side.
Yes.
But that's really all it is, just looking at things and then just blowing it up and exaggerating what I see.
Yeah, I remember my teacher once mentioned that kind of like painting and coloring correctly in painting, or making interesting color in painting, is kind of the art of over-exaggeration. Like, what can you push this color of pigment to like verisimilitude, or whatever he used to say, or like look like real life, you know what I mean? To like imitate it in like a visually pleasing fashion.
Right.
Actually, some of our fans out there, if you remember our Element of Harmony episode when we featured your Discord piece, I forget the title of that one.
I was
don't know
just
if you
going
guys
to bring
have
that
the
up.
link for it.
I do. It's called
With
Thanks,
Discord.
Bert.
Yeah, I haven't found it. There
Toad's
we go.
got your back.
Where he's Discord's holding all the little ponies. That was one of the major things that we were talking about, like in that piece, of how like all the little reflective lighting and glowing from the pool was like bouncing off Discord, and like colors from Discord are bouncing off other things, and it was incredibly interesting to look at because there was way more complexity behind this lighting that you had like created with color. So it's fascinating to see, like, as artists and like fan of art, and it's
Right.
cool, it's really well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's then again this joy of taking characters that are, when you look at them, they may be simple and flat colors in the medium that, they come from, and then taking that entity and then bringing it into a painting where they're in a three-dimensional space where there's multiple light sources, showing that they have more texture than might have been originally shown on the show, for example. In that Discord piece, I wanted to show some strong lighting come from the top, and the lighting coming from the bottom, and the lighting coming from behind him. So it's it's like a puzzle, basically trying to imagine what all that lighting is going to do, bouncing off all those spaces.
That's what we were doing, is trying to dissect this puzzle, because we could see, you have this green light coming from the top, and it's hitting this way, and then this blue from the bottom, and then on his face you have, all three of the colors coming in, with, the teal in the background, on his nose, and we're trying to figure this out, how all this is coming together.
Right. Yeah, I think
it was very cool.
I think we kind of brought up that piece because of a lot of, the reflected blue. And then as we were looking at it and kind of going over it in the show, we're like, wait, but there's green and there's all these other colors, and it's just like, what? It's very, very complex and involved and really cool.
So I had one more question about color palettes that I really wanted to ask. I remember I was watching a live digital art panel that you had done at Otakon on your YouTube channel. Plug for those watching, you should check out TsaoShin on his YouTube channel. And he had TsaoShin had, when you were doing the colors for the little dragon you were painting, you kind of laid out a little color palette that you were kind of going to use. So I was really curious, because all of your pieces, the colors themselves go really, really well together. So all the color palettes really blend seamlessly, and I don't know if I should contribute that just how well you feel color should go together from your experience, or if there's maybe something that you've learned on how to lay colors down beforehand as a preliminary step to build upon when you paint these things.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that little swatch that I put up there. It's actually, I do things like that to try to control what the end result's going to be. And you're right. A lot of what I'm doing, it's, I base what I'm doing based on the context that it's in. So if I see something that doesn't look harmonious with other colors, I try to come back to that swatch and rethink about what it's actually going to do, if it's going to be distracting or if it's going to sit in that composition really well. But yeah, a lot of what I do for color, it's taking those flat colors, bringing them in, and then bringing out the light sources. And then with every light source, I have to think about how that's going to change that local color, not just on the edges, but how it's actually going to change the color in the flat. Yeah.
Do you ever lay down a color and then kind of go back and revisit it and change it a bit?
Yeah, very often. Yeah. Again, it's contextual. Sometimes what seems like it would make sense scientifically or technically, it doesn't. It's actually very distracting. So you have to bend the rule just so you can make a harmonious composition.
Yeah, because
that's really cool. Sorry, I'm nerding out. Go ahead.
No, because you were saying before, how you kind of use a lot of these very saturated colors, and a lot of My Little Pony, for instance, is not very saturated at all. And we've kind of looked at a lot of art from artists who do use these really saturated colors, but in a very distinct way to kind of give life to it. And I feel like that's something that you have to be very careful with, I guess, because you can kind of totally throw off a piece if you use it wrong, basically.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's always challenging because it's based on something that everyone's familiar with. They know exactly what they look like and what they look like under different lighting situations. So when something looks crazy, it's because it does look crazy. You might have to back off. Even if you love it, you may have to remove it just because it's too distracting. Save it for another time or another place.
There's a lot of fun fan art, though, that we have seen or featured where the purpose is to be too crazy, and it's now just the shape of the pony, but the color or anything that would represent that pony is just completely whacked out of there. One of my favorite artists, Blitz Pony, the outlines never make any sense, and she likes them. And when we interviewed her, she said she likes them because they're pretty, even though they're always completely different colors, complementary colors, and these crazy things.
So I wanted to bring up a piece called Faithful Teacher. because this is a collaboration with Virastaper. And I am horribly butchering that name again because I still don't know how to pronounce it. But we actually saw this piece at Everfree, Bernd and I, because we were there. And we talked to View a bit about it. And so I guess he did most of like the character work and you did a lot of the coloring? Or what kind of went into this collaboration with him?
Well, I was actually really happy when he approached me to do this collab because a lot of how I learned was actually doing collabs with people. And I hadn't done one for years. And I told him that despite how excited I was, I didn't have a lot of time to actually do the sketch. So he's right. He did actually lay down pretty much the entire composition and really fast, actually. He offered like 3 different settings and 3 different compositions. And this was the first one, and I actually loved it. And he just, kind of cleaned it up a little bit and shot it my way. I told him I would lay down a palette that I felt comfortable working in, and he said, looks good. And, I kind of did a lot of that loose rendering and, passed it back to him, and he did a lot of details. And it's very fun to do collabs like this because I feel like with every one that I've done, I learn a lot from the other person, how they would have done something, how they did it differently than I do. And I just did a recent one, the same thing. We passed the sketch back and forth. And, in the end, I came away with so much knowledge, so it was a lot of fun to do both these pieces.
And both of the collabs are beautiful, by the way. And why this specific collab we brought up, The Faithful Teacher, really stood out to us is when we're walking by the table, like, we all know Veresper's work. We're pretty familiar with the community he's a part of, the My Little Pony drawing school. And all, like, the ponies and everything, like, everything on his table really made sense, and they had, like, a constant, like, theme and style. And even in this piece, how Celestia is drawn, like, very tall, very proud, huge wings, that's really key to Veresper's style. And I noticed that, but the color palette was completely different than anything at his table and any work I had ever seen from him. And I've been following his work for, like, almost 2 years now. And all of a sudden, there's this crazy color palette which is way more harmonious than I'm ever used to seeing in his work, because he really, really loves complementary colors. And I was really taken aback by it. I was like, dude, like, this is awesome. Like, what is this? And he mentioned that it was a collab. And as soon as he said TsaoShin, I was just like, I knew it. Like, I could almost tell just by how the colors went together. So I'm still, again, curious how you kind of selectively pick out these color palettes. Is like, I feel like there's a secret, like, amazing color palettes book that you just, like, have, like, at your desk, like, every day.
I like the extension, the dot book.
I wish there was something I could say that would just be, 1, 2, 3 steps sort of thing. But I feel like it's one of those things that you just, you get to a point where you feel comfortable as you're, it's like an evolution. I feel like I start laying down the colors. I don't like them right away, and it's a lot of experimenting. It's a lot of trying to figure that out. But through the years, I've learned that you can kind of do that forever, and never finish a drawing. So what I've kind of tried to do is, put some chains on and basically say, well, I want this to be a night scene, so I know I'm going to be using these colors, and I'll eliminate, half the palette right there. Then from that point forward, it's really balancing it, because I always go very crazy really quickly. But yeah, it's all about, aesthetic, what it seems pleasing to me. I was actually a little worried that he would see those colors and be like, whoa.
See, now that's funny to me, because I thought you laid down the color palettes as to give yourself colors to use, but now you're just limiting yourself to colors. That's completely backwards to what I had thought.
No, those are to keep me boxed in. I feel like if I didn't do that, then I would probably just, the colors would just be everywhere. It'd just be this rainbow vomit.
You should just let yourself go one day and see what you can do. I'm actually now really, really curious to see what you could do when you just go crazy with it. Because I can
make a false color image or something.
Yeah, I can list quite a few pony artists who go absolutely crazy with their colors and make some really, really beautiful work if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
All right, that'll have to be for
on
after
that.
the show.
Do you have sort of like a favorite color palette? Like, I've noticed a lot of yours are sort of darkish backgrounds with bright colors. Is that sort of a favorite thing of yours, or?
Yeah, it is. I do like. I tend to like warmer colors, but they're still what you would think are cool. So like purples and lavenders and pinks, and then having the characters contrast that on the background. I feel like the darker backgrounds are because I get to a point where I think the character isn't popping off the background enough, so I just keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back. But yeah, I'd say that when I look at my gallery, every time I think I'm going to do a new drawing, I kind of tell myself, okay, what am I seeing too much of? What do I need to do more of? So I've been trying to make that more various now.
Mm-hmm. I think a good example of that is one that we brought up the other week, which was this one here, the Flufflepuff and Chrysalis one. something with your warm pinks and purples, and then the bright backgrounds.
Right. Yeah, Mike actually commissioned me to do this piece, and originally it wasn't going to have a background. But actually, when he commissioned me, I didn't know enough about Flufflepuff to feel comfortable actually drawing her, so I went back and I read all of his stuff. And I just saw how cute it was, and I was like, wow, right. It's got to have like this background in here. I said, hey, don't worry about the background. I'll just kind of pop it in there if you want. He says, oh, great. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened. I just again, but yeah, they're warmer characters up front. I wanted to give Chrysalis kind of a warmer tone, even though she's kind of a cooler looking character.
Yeah, we noticed that.
Yeah, so she would fit in with Flufflepuff, and then just kind of have the background be a little cooler.
Because we noticed that there was blues and like she was cool, but it felt warm because everything else around it is so warm.
Right.
And there's also a little bit of like purples mixed into her black skin and stuff, so it's kind of
she's violet rather than the normal black.
Yeah.
You're violet.
How dare
you're turning violet.
Wow. So you were talking a bit about collaborations and learning from other people, but you've also taken a couple of steps to help other people learn too. You've released some brushes. You've put out some work in progress stuff. Can you just talk a little bit about your motivation behind doing that and kind of the steps you're taking to kind of reach out and teach other people?
Well, okay, yeah. I actually do that stuff because of how I learned. I wouldn't be where I am now and continuing to try to get better if it not for other artists doing the same thing. For several years, all I did was just watch other people draw and, collab with them, try to learn from them. And that was the most invaluable thing for my digital painting, and practicing. So, I feel like where I'm at now, I kind of owe that back to people, so putting out the brushes or doing a tutorial, especially on questions that are commonly asked, because I'm kind of seeing it from the top down. Somebody might ask me a question about what my brush settings are, but I've only answered that one person. It didn't really disseminate to a lot of people. So instead of doing that, I want to reach out and, make that stuff available to lots of people so that people aren't struggling, that they get more time creating versus, time spent trying to figure it out or trying to troubleshoot something, something that someone already knows that, they just haven't told them yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. We see a lot of work in progress, whether or not it's pictures as you've shown here or videos that some people make. But you also you personally release the actual brushes that you use.
Right.
And that's something that I haven't really seen a lot of artists do, but I think it's a great idea.
Right, because and you know what, it's really, that again is a frustration that I had with Photoshop. When I first started using it, I felt like those default brushes were so difficult that I didn't understand how anyone could make anything in Photoshop. I didn't know that you could actually make custom brushes, and when I started getting them, I actually downloaded from artists who made them available on their own profiles. It was amazing how quickly it became easier to create a piece. So now that I feel like I have a comfortable set of brushes that I use pretty much all the time, I'd like other people to, see that this is possible. You can, make Photoshop do the heavy lifting for you.
Which is really cool. Like, that's kind of how I started drawing in Photoshop too, was there's an artist I really looked up to, and she was like, well, these are the brushes, like the 5 brushes I use for every single thing I make. And I'm just like, I'm going to take these. And now, like, that's what I use when I do my art that I make in Photoshop.
I had a sort of not so much a technical, but more of a hardware question. You said here on your like the front page of your DeviantArt profile, you've got a Wacom, an Intuos tablet, and a Cintiq tablet. Which one, like, is there? I mean, obviously you've got a preference. Is it sort of easier to draw on the Cintiq with the images behind your pen, or do you sort of is there much of a difference between that and drawing on the screen?
Yeah, there's a bit of difference. I would say that there are some things that are a lot easier to do on the Cintiq, and then there are some things that are just, they're fine to do on the Intuos. It's just, if you've been using an Intuos all your life, it's just going to be, an easy, cheaper way to do what you're doing. I'd say the stuff that's easier on the Cintiq are long, straight, or curved lines. Just because you're going to be pivoting from your elbow versus your wrist. And they actually have the Cintiq now because I'm starting to develop a little bit of carpal. And I picked it up for that very reason, because I need to start drawing from my elbow. Now, I did have some resistance to the Cintiq at first just because of that. My pen is under, it's blocking my actual view of the cursor. That was actually very frustrating to me. And for some reason, even though I can zoom in and zoom in on Photoshop, I found myself with my eyes 1 inch off the tablet when I wanted to look at something closer. But, now that I've had it for quite a while, it's actually a really, really great device. I'm starting to prefer the Cintiq now over my Intuos, and I think I might actually replace the other Intuos, which is at work, of course, with the Cintiq, just because it's good for your arm. It's easier to do those curved strokes, but it is so expensive. So it's like, if you're doing this all the time, all day long, kind of like how I am, then the Cintiq, it's like one of these really incredibly powerful tools, but it's so, the cost is just so high.
I was going to say, how jealous should I be that you have one?
Yeah.
I got lucky. I picked mine up on Craigslist.
Nice. I actually did not expect that at all. That's cool. I know the best deal I think that someone had brought up to me or shown me for a Cintiq is 1,300 for a Cintiq that you can actually take as a laptop to draw on it without the dependence on a computer, but then also plug it into a computer, and so it's cross compatible that way.
Oh, okay.
And that was the best deal, but that's still it's an easy grand.
Right. Right. Yeah, and even on Craigslist, this one still cost me $2,000.
Yeah.
So, going a bit meta here, let's talk a little bit about your journey on DeviantArt, because you have been on it for 10 years, according to your account, and that is such an incredible amount of time. Earlier in the show, I was looking at when we were talking about your Discord piece, and when we featured it on episode 15 of our podcast. That's 2 years ago for us, and that is a ridiculously long time, and I can't believe it.
Wow, yeah.
But, you're sitting here on DeviantArt for 10 years, and, you've had bunch of things. You've had tons of daily deviations. You've had, you have premium until hell freezes over. What's your experience on DeviantArt been overall?
Well, DeviantArt is definitely one of those things that I feel like you're going to reach a pretty big audience. Of course, it's debatable among artists who, don't like what they see there, but, DeviantArt's kind of what you make of it. But having been on there for that long, it's definitely been a journey for me that kind of took some roads I wasn't expecting. I was pretty much not very well known for a good deal of that. I'd say that all the popularity kind of rushed in within the last 3 or 4 years. And then in the last 2 years, it's really ramped up from then. It's been kind of an invaluable tool, though. I'd say that, it's difficult if you're not going to do any work into getting any kind of, outreach on it. You're not going to get anything back. It really requires that you kind of touch base with the people that are commenting to you or faving your stuff. You're going to have to go out there and do that the same, to other people too. And, I feel like at this point, I've reached a point where, I'm kind of getting comments and notes kind of quicker than I can kind of get back to, but I never want to lose that touching base with the community. It's getting difficult to, spend the time every day to address everyone's comments, but really that's how I got to where I was, that and always drawing, always trying to upload something.
Well,
We really appreciate you coming out here and doing this with us.
Oh,
To say that again, on that aspect of reaching the community.
Yeah, and you really do. It's crazy. We don't see it very often. We've had a couple of artists. I believe White Diamonds was one of the artists who just constantly was in her own comment section going on there, and you seem to have that too, where you're just responding to everyone and kind of keeping that personal touch going.
Yeah,
it's really cool to see.
It's an important part to the art stuff to me. I feel like the community is, nobody wants to make a drawing and then just sit there and, nobody saw it. When you're drawing, there's a lot of it that you're doing for yourself, but you want to share that with other people too. And then when you don't get a response, it can kind of be a downer.
And I think there's a big sense of community on DeviantArt, and a lot of that comes from, some people, you mentioned earlier, some people are a bit meh about DeviantArt, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that it seems to be a bit of a fan art heavy website. But I think that with there's disadvantages and advantages to that, because I think fan art breeds a huge sense of community, and it's through that sense of community that you've kind of thrived in and you've really enjoyed, and that's what you're kind of giving back to it.
Right.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of bring that up, because looking back through your gallery, like some of the first pieces that you posted up were very traditional, very like not fandom oriented. Like here's a sketch of a bald eagle, which is absolutely fantastic. But I mean, as you've kind of gone on with your art, I guess just looking at your DeviantArt, it kind of gets more into the fandoms. Have you kind of found that certain art tends to get more of a reaction from?
Yeah, definitely. People, they're gonna love the fan art, because they're into it too. And of course, again, there's another argument that a lot of artists get into. For me, I'm doing this for fun. I'm not trying to get anything out of it except for sharing that joy that I have in the fandom with other people. So whether or not it's creating something original, which I've done before, or just being so enamored with, a movie or a game that I have to do something, I have to see this in my own style, and sharing that with other people, that's what's important to me. It's not anything else. So I'm not trying to get out there and create, the world's best book or anything like that. I'm just out there just doing this for fun.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting. Huh?
You go ahead.
Okay. It's kind of interesting because like a lot of people kind of tend to have that view that it's like, oh, if it's fan art, like a lot of people are going to flock to it, and but it's kind of a good thing because, like, for instance, our show and what we do, like, I know a lot of us didn't have any interest in art in any technical aspect before we saw like MLP fan art and stuff, and it's kind of introduced art to a lot of people because they find something that they like that's relatable, and then they kind of look deeper into how it's made, and it's kind of a big cycle, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons I actually love MLP fandom is because of the artwork that comes from it. I've never actually seen anything, maybe aside from like Pokemon, that has inspired such an amazing amount of artists to do this wealth of art, and it's all so amazing. Where they're taking the art, it goes, one step further than the show might have shown. These amazing reinterpretations of scenes, setting them in different styles. It's really inspirational to see that kind of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it surprises a lot of people as well, and just the depth of it. And I mean, when you think about it, we've had enough content to make over 100 episodes, and I don't think that we have even scratched the surface of what people can bring to the table with this kind of stuff. And it's that sense of community, and people who disparage that, I think, have forgotten some of the things that might have brought them into loving art in the first place. I mean, everybody does art, hopefully, because it's a passion of theirs, and other people are just finding passions through other mediums and using it to relate to art. And like Flutter Guys said, a lot of the times people learn about art and get passionate about art because of this. And so I wouldn't, I think it'd be silly to discredit any means of getting people passionate about art.
Ponies made me take art in college. It's a fact.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, ponies have real word
Spark,
influences.
did you? Yeah,
I did. I just wanted to go back a little bit. You were saying about one of the main reasons you make something is just that you're having so much fun with it. I just wanted to ask, how much fun did you have making this one?
So yeah, again, here's another one of those situations where I wanted to pay tribute to a creator of tons and tons of franchises, and I was thinking, I would draw this very serious picture of Miyamoto, and I just I actually thought it would be just really funny. At first I was thinking, well, I'll just have him creating Mario. That makes sense, just like the Sistine Chapel, and then from there it just turned into this ridiculousness.
This is one thing that I really enjoy about doing interviews with artists is that we get the opportunity to sort of go back and look through all of their work that we may not have seen before. And this is one that I'd never seen before, even though it had a daily deviation in 2010.
That one gets mixed reactions at
I can't imagine why.
I think it's fun. It's always great to ask like an artist who makes something like this, just like what was your thought process? Like, how did you come to this conclusion? And sometimes, like it was fun and it being ridiculous, and it's just the answer is always great. It's fun to hear.
So we were talking, you were talking a little bit about cons, and we've got one coming up really soon that I wanted to use as kind of a segue here. So you're going to be at BronyCon next week, and then shortly afterwards at Otakon in the same place. So what's your experience with cons in general?
Well, they're all a little different. Each one it's different depending on what the convention is and how many people are there. I actually enjoy being at the conventions so much just because I get a chance to talk to the people who appreciate not only the fandoms, but, the people that are coming to see the artwork, and you get a lot of people who really, really appreciate the artists in the artist alley. And I don't know that there's anything that's more satisfying than having someone come back year after year, to come and pick up a print that you've done, that's new that year, or they've been following you. That's just this. It makes me feel good about what I'm doing, and I go back and I get inspired to do even more. But I've actually really enjoyed the conventions for that very reason.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing you at BronyCon so I can get a print.
Yeah, same.
I'm guilty of being a signature hunter, so I'll be asking you for your signature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you still got that playmat, right, Bernd?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going great.
Bernd, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get him to sign this one for me.
All right.
Yes.
I will try to. TsaoShin, are you bringing this print to BronyCon or only pony prints?
I think I have so many right now. I am not sure that I have that one as a full size print, but I may have it as a postcard.
All right, I'll bug you about it then.
That's perfect, because then we can ship it
Because
down to Australia.
I'm going to need this one.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So I think I remember before we started this that you were saying that this is going to be your first BronyCon?
Yeah, it's first time.
Yeah. Have you been to pony conventions before and vended at them, or?
No, this is my first one.
I hope that I hope
all
that
of
we're
the
decent
horses.
guests.
Yeah. I've had a lot of different
Expect
artists
to be swamped.
telling me different stories about, what I'm really looking forward to that I'm hearing is that the appreciation is really, really high there. And of course that's what I'm really into. So it'll be really, really nice to see that.
I think you'll love it. I think it'll be great.
You're
Yeah,
definitely going big for your first one. I think BronyCon is by far the biggest one.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to hear like an artist's perspective who's vended at other conventions versus a pony convention, like what the differences are and stuff. But I guess that'll have to wait.
Guess we'll have to ask you when we're there ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So, now that we're talking a little bit about, you going off to conventions, we are running up a little bit on time here. So let's give you an opportunity. Do you want to just shout out a couple more places? You're obviously going to be at BronyCon next weekend, and then Otakon at the weekend after that. But what about some of your places online? Obviously, you have your DeviantArt, which is tsaoshin.deviantart.com. But what other places can people check you out at?
Well, I'm kind of everywhere. Tried to kind of cover all my grounds, but I'm also on Facebook. I'm on facebook.fan or tsaoshin.fans. Got a Tumblr. Pretty much if you Google TsaoShin, you're going to find me just about everywhere. Right now, the shops are closed as I'm getting ready for my conventions, but the only shop that's open is my Society 6, which is also TsaoShin.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like you kind of have your DeviantArt is kind of like a centralized page for all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, that's the fastest place.
Yeah. Well, you got a really nice system actually. If people were to go check out his DeviantArt, he's got a really nice system at the top of his page where he's got a couple of links right there: commission shop, Facebook, Tumblr, all that kind of stuff. And so it's actually quite easy. I like having that. We try to have that a little bit with our DeviantArt too, kind of having a hub where people can go. Yeah, there's additional things, but at the end of the day, you go here, you get everything. It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have that one place to send people so that you don't have to list out everything. It's just, go here and then you can find me everywhere else.
Right.
So, before we start wrapping up here, is there anything else that you want to talk about? You want to shout out anyone or anything like that?
No, I can't really think of it. I mean, I'm really excited to go to the convention. I'm actually really looking forward to meeting everyone.
Yeah. It's going to be so much fun.
Quick question for you. What about, this maybe is too big a question, maybe hopefully I can keep it brief, but what about like major inspirations or people you think people like watching this should go check out that have influenced you?
Oh my gosh.
Is that too big of a question?
Yeah, that's a huge one. I feel like, when people do those inspiration maps, I'd have to have like 10 of those pages.
How about a big name you would want everyone listening to this to at least go check out once?
Besides yourself, obviously.
Yeah.
I'd have to give a shout out to Caitlin. Her artwork actually just did the last collab I did was with her. Her shop name is Sunset Dragon. She's also going to be at BronyCon, and her artwork is so amazing. She's actually been a huge inspiration piece for me for a long time.
All right, cool. I'll have to check that out.
Well, we'll also stick that up on the screen for everyone, and hopefully everybody has gone and check out your page. If they don't already know about you, you're quite the popular guy, so hopefully a lot of people already do know about you. So yeah, I guess that's really everything. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you very much.
It was a blast having you, and it was really fun getting to kind of pick your brain at this kind of stuff.
It was a lot of fun.
And we'll see you, or at least 3 of us will see you at BronyCon, so we'll have to stop by and say hi for that.
Yep. And
After the vicariously through you 3.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So, that is everything for this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed our interview. I know I had a great time. I know our guest had a great time, so hopefully viewers also had a great time as well. Do we want to go through the plugs really quick, Joel?
Yeah, I'll do them real quickly. Okay, so we have Facebook, which is Cutie Art Crusaders. We have Twitter, which is @CutieArtCrusade. We have a YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders, I believe.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a DeviantArt, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, and the email, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. Pretty much Cutie Art Crusaders on everything except Twitter.
Yeah.
Because Twitter has a character limit.
Yeah.
So we got stuck on that.
Kind of ran up on that one.
And just one more time shouting out our YouTube page because we are kind of ramping up on that. So you can go and check that if you're on the live stream, or maybe if you're on EFN's channel, head on over to youtube.com/CutieArtCrusaders. That's where you can get all of our content. We're gonna have some content coming out from BronyCon, and of course, all of our episodes are going up there as well. So if you could head on over there, give us a subscribe or a like or whatever you want to, that would be fantastic. All right. Well, that is everything for this show. Does anybody else have anything else to say, or you shall forever hold your peace?
I do.
Yep.
Next week, we are going to be at BronyCon, obviously. So, 3 of us will be. So I have no idea what we're doing for the episode for that.
Atmospark show.
It might be the Atmospark show, or it might not be anything, or we might have something special planned.
Right.
So stay tuned.
There's either going to be something or there's not.
Yeah. So our plans right now, the default plans, unless anything changes, is that we're gonna take a week off, and we're not gonna have an episode next week, just because we're gonna be at the con. It's gonna be too crazy hectic to try and do all of that, as well as make an episode / edit an episode. So that's gonna be our default for now. I know that some of us were thinking we might do something for it, but the default one will be that we won't have an episode, and then we'll be back the week after that for sure. But yeah.
For sure.
Go show.
So yeah, now that's everything. That's a very good point that you brought up. We obviously don't know what our next theme is because we don't know what the heck we're doing for the next 2 weeks of the show. So,
well, no, the one after that is going to be BronyCon, obviously. I mean,
probably,
most likely, yeah.
All right. Well, that is everything for this week, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube. We love you all the same. Thanks one more time for TsaoShin. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And yeah. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burned.
I'm Flutterguy317.
Atmospark.
You can do it too. TsaoShin, come on.
Oh, TsaoShin.
And we'll see you guys 2 weeks from now when we're back from BronyCon.
Bye.